Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's stream. My name is Voltie. I am part of the 7 Point Highlander committee, and above me here is Pat, who is also on that committee as well.
Howdy y'all, how we all doing?
Hopefully everyone is well.
I love to see Go Birds already. Fucking love it. This is what we're here for. That's right.
So tonight we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy 7 Point Highlander points update. This points update has been about 2 months in the making. We as a committee have discussed all of the different things that we could or couldn't do, and this will be the format for the next month and a half, 2 months-ish, and there is a later slide where we talk about the exact date of the next points update to coincide with Edge of Eternities. But for now, let's say hi to everyone. I'm going to work on the audio while you chat with people.
Yeah, howdy y'all. Yeah, look, it's points update time. I just realized, Edge of Eternity is so much fucking closer than I'd like it to be. Voltie and I were talking about beforehand, I think the week I get back from Nationals, we're already in Edge of Eternity opening. And that's 6 weeks away, and I'm still messing around with fucking Final Fantasy cards. I'm invoicing people right now, and it's just this schedule is backbreaking on a singles vendor. I'll tell you that right now. It is hectic. But look, yeah, we did think about a lot of options with this points update, and we arrived at some conclusions, which y'all are waiting to see. Edge of Eternity spoilers starting in about 9 minutes. Yeah. Probably Watchlist ready to edge you on their spoilers. So yeah, let's get fucking to it, eh?
I just want to quickly check if that volume has been solved there, Vance. I've put myself down a bit and I put Pat up a bit. But yeah, let's get into the Final Fantasy 7 Point Highlander points update. I'm sure everyone is super excited. So, for our first slide, no changes. Yep. See you all in 2 months.
Yep. No changes. Yep, that's where we landed.
We're gonna talk about all of this, obviously, and this points update is probably quite surprising to probably quite a lot of people. But the reasoning for no changes is just as important as the reasoning for any changes that can or can't occur. So there's still plenty of information that we're going to be talking about the state of the format and how things are going. But I did think that it would be cute to have this slide presented in this way. I did have a look in terms of researching for the purposes of this update and the article, and it's been 5 or 6 years since we've had a period where no points changes have been made. So it's really, really exciting that we get to bring one to you. So let's get into the meat of it. So, since the last update, which was Tarkir Dragonstorm, there were 3 cards that received 1 point, which were Tamiyo, Planar Nexus, and Netherglyph. Of those, Tamiyo and Planar Nexus have been fine. They've still seen a fair amount of play. They're still doing reasonably well. Netherglyph, unfortunately, is seeing a lot less play and isn't seeing much success. But, 2 for 3 is fine. Whether or not we want to have a look at what we do with Netherglyph in the future is a separate issue, but the TDM points update, the 3 cards that got pointed, it was fine. Any comments on this, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of changes in with TDM, and what's worth mentioning is we have 6 sets a year now, so that points update was, I don't know, a blink of an eye ago. 2 months ago, and the next points update is 7 weeks from now. One of the realities is that to go back to the no changes part, is that originally we would have normally had this period of time between TDM and Edge of Eternity for a points update. We just don't think we need to move the format every 8 months in an insane way. I would like to see the format naturally evolve a bit. I'd like to see people just a metagame evolve as it needs to. And I just don't think, with the level of timings we're going to have updates, I suspect, at least from my opinion, that no update changes are going to become more regular, because there's going to be periods between pointings where there's just nothing reasonable to do. But like, I don't think we also want to. I mean, it's been the position the committee hasn't fully agreed or disagreed on it. It's been a conversation that I don't know that we want to hold ourselves out of certain points updates. So like we it was hard to look at and find a schedule where we only picked 4 of the 6 and announced it that way.
Mm.
So if we're going to have all 6 at our disposal, I don't know that we're going to use all 6 naturally. It's just like, it's not a place to be. You know, there's not naturally going to be. We're not trying to create churn through pointings in like a very aggressive way. You know, I think some decks and some people need time to work on things. To the 3 pointings part, I'll get to that now. Like, yeah, like Tamio, very powerful card, been good. You know, Nethergoyf, obviously, you know, was a pointing that was like kind of trying to find the black card that we wanted to point because of Black's success, but it wasn't like there was an obvious card, so I'm not surprised that whatever card caught it was going to suck. Like, I was sort of one of the more resistant members of the committee on the Nethergoyf pointing. You know, I was not as convinced as others, but, you know, the feeling was that the overall blue-black X decks were overperforming, and we had to find somewhere to go. So, yeah, that's how that wound up. And yeah, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Like, it's a passing grade. I'm not going to give myself a pat on the back for it. So.
I think ultimately as well, you know, whether or not Nethergoyf moves, there are plenty of cards that get pointed, and it's possibly or probably incorrect to have pointed them at, you know, at the stage that they got pointed, and have remained on the points list due to natural shifts or unnatural shifts, or just the committee being unable to decide on something, for example. You know, there are plenty of cards on the 1-point list that most people agree shouldn't be on there, that we would love to depoint once we have an opportunity to, or feel that it's appropriate to do so. But Nethergoyf theoretically will only get more powerful as the ability to, you know, blank damage-based removal as a way to very efficiently threaten people. I wouldn't be surprised if it catches up a bit closer to its 1-point level, but I'm perfectly happy with Tamio and Nexus staying at 1, so moving into the D pointings, there were 4 D pointings as part of TDM, which was Ragavan from 2 to 1, Oko from 2 to 1, Eno from 1 to 0, and Dig Through Time from 2 to 1. The first 3, Ragavan, Oko, and Eno, have all seen a reasonable amount of play, and they've also seen a reasonable amount of success. Honestly, nothing crazy, none of them have broken the format. This is still early days, and there is most likely going to be an uptick in their play rate and their success rate as people work out the appropriate way to be playing them. But out of the 3, nothing dramatically happened that would cause concern. The best performing card out of the 4 cards that got depointed was Dig Through Time, and it wasn't very close. It did very, very well and didn't see much play. But it wasn't, you know, a dramatic change, and it wasn't a really big deal. So out of the 4 D pointings, I would say we were 4 for 4 for them. Yeah,
I think what's important to note with these is, like, the granularity. Like, Ragavan is somewhere between a 1 and a 2-point card, and so when we say we moved it to 1 point, that doesn't mean we don't inherently believe it's maybe not worth, like, I don't know, like 1.45 points or something, right? Like, there is a level of, like, we don't have granularity, so we're attempting to group something, you know, close to the thing that it is, closer. So, like, you know, I think one of the things that got talked about with the Nethergoyf pointing being, and like the Ragavan D pointing, is like the delta between Ragavan and Nethergoyf. Ragavan might be like a 1.45 point card, and Nethergoyf might be like a 5 point card. They might have a 1 point delta, in fact. So, like, there is this level of, like, when you're playing around with the 1 point cards specifically, there's always cards on the overperforming side of it. When you push a lot of them to 2 points, they underperform pretty heavily. Like, and a lot of these cards sit somewhere in the middle, but, like, there's no, you know, actual capacity. I think half points are a pretty hideous concept, even though, like, maybe one day, but, like, there's no capacity to deal with these. So, like, inevitably, like, things you're going to get free power or get punished slightly. It's just about finding the closer natural place these cards should fall. But yeah, like I said, I think the 4D pointings have been fine. And it's just, like, you know, maybe the one, like, yeah, maybe, like, the Oko play patterns aren't the most fun to play against at times, but, you know, the card's not, like, overly powerful, and maybe natural order has just led to more Atraxes in the format, but with Deadpool running around, that seems fine, too, to be honest, at the moment. So there's natural predation of some of these, and again, we're 2 months in. I don't think we've seen the final deck formations of this. This is a format that inevitably has less people playing it, less churn. People haven't, kind of exactly entirely figured out every, variation of these decks that's like going to be better. So I think we will potentially see some of these cards perform better or worse as the meta either responds to them or as people figure out better homes for them. So, yeah.
Well said. In terms of the TDM update, there were 7 changes, and out of the 7, I would say 6 were perfectly fine. 1 is a little bit of a miss, but nothing was egregiously bad in terms of a decision that we made. There are some other things that have occurred in the last 2 months, which we're going to talk about now. This is a big one, and I want to talk about this, especially from a TO perspective, and that's why I've dragged Pat along here, but, plenty of people have noticed this trend. Event attendance is going up, basically at every level, so larger events are seeing more people, LGSs are seeing more people, more LGSs are firing more events, which is great. The player base continues to grow. We have more 7-Point Highlander-based content than we've had previously, and the general player sentiment seems to be positive. This is a thing that I've noticed especially. It's pretty rare for us to reach a point in the format where everyone's like, this seems fine, the format is relatively healthy, we don't necessarily need any changes. That attitude is rare, and so it is noticed when that happens.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I definitely advocated for and favored the no pointings was also somebody just said in chat, I don't care about Pittsburgh signing Aaron Rodgers. Is terrible. Good for them. But one of the things that made me push for no points here is the format is in a good spot, and I think again we have these 6 windows of time. Numbers are going up. We're seeing leagues pop up in places they haven't. Attendance in WA is going up, leading to Nationals. South Australia is launching their first league that looks to have great numbers and great community buy-in. I think I saw in my feed another store or 2 running weekly, starting to fire up into it. When we're viewing ways of how do we view formats positive or not positive, or do we need to make changes? If attendance levels at weeklies are up, that usually to me is a sign of a healthy format. You're less likely to show up at your weekly if you're in the middle of a dog shit meta. And so for me, part of the reason I kind of sided that way was based on these sort of how would I put it? Yeah, these sort of non normal ways to view the data points. I don't know that people, when they look at the format, they're just looking at raw data of games played and stuff like that. But we're looking at the overall. I'm probably using the word heuristics wrong here, but other things going on to make that determination as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously impossible to gauge without sending out surveys, and that is something that I've scribbled in pencil on a napkin that I have to find it somewhere. But, customer satisfaction surveys are the way typically that corporations and businesses find out if people are enjoying themselves. We don't have that luxury, but if the general discourse is, format's great, we like playing it, then that's good. We don't get that very often. There's always usually some kind of bogeyman, especially in every other constructed format. When we think about Modern and Standard and Pioneer, it's so frequent that there is an issue or multiple issues, and we have that as well, but it's a lot easier to fix. And so when we have got it right, we're going to take advantage of that. And so, yeah, I think this is a pretty unique time for us, but we'll be monitoring it as we move forward. Some other things that have occurred since the TDM update.
I'll hop in real quick.
Sure.
To answer Cartographic's question. I think we did discuss some minor point changes, and we decided the amount of changes that have happened since Voltie and I joined the committee had been at a high clip. We decided there was some value in showing that we were capable of a no change as well. I think there were some small things that were on the radar, but again, we decided to put those off. We didn't think they were wildly necessary. And again, because we have another 6-7 weeks to the next update, basically, we just thought, let's just let it ride. We can discuss those things, let the format, brew a bit more, and then probably those small changes we discussed in the last meeting, depointing or appointing, We're going to get to our comments about the watch list in a moment, Vance, because we have some talking points on that whole thing.
Yeah.
Mostly we need a better term, as I do not like the concept of the watch list anymore.
We're going to get to that as well. We are going to
have that talk. That's a talking point. So we'll talk about it. Anyway, back to you, Voltie. Sorry.
So in terms of things that have actually occurred since TDM, so the set itself, TDM, was released. Final Fantasy was released 2 days ago, and we're going to be watching to see how it impacts 7 Point. The Saga change occurred. Now, plenty of you might not know about this, but Wizards has changed the Saga ruling, basically, on how Sagas function. For the most part, it isn't going to impact anyone in a way outside of exactly one card and one interaction with that card. So all of the other sagas that we would expect to see, them getting humilitied, for example, like all of that, if you ask me the judge question, I'm just going to ignore you. But very importantly, Urza's Saga will no longer blow up under a Blood Moon or a Harbinger of the Seas. That's the update. It will not blow up, and importantly, it will keep any abilities it has gained since it's been in play. So if your Urza Saga has gained tap add colorless and then a Blood Moon hits the field, you have a basic waste in play. If your Urza Saga can make constructs, then you can make a construct every turn. I'm pretty sure that this change isn't going to be massive. It's just going to be a thing that occurs in our format, but it is worth noting that there has actually been a structural rules change since the last points announcement. Out of these three things, I don't think any of them are going to change anything crazy, but obviously we'll keep an eye on it, and realistically, if for some reason Urza Saga is just completely broken because there's no counterplay to it, then maybe that's something we have to think about, but I'm not in a rush to. So, to summarize, Final Fantasy, no changes.
Yeah, nothing from the Vibes Vote channel surprised me. People's hatred for combo was wildly present. The fact that we had snowball-y kind of voting methodology. Again, I think I wrote the quote, which is one of my favorite quotes I've heard in recent times. Voting for the winner makes you feel popular too. The fact that people are trying to dissect the Vibes channel for like data to see which cards actually made me want to like kill it, because like anyone who's trying to use that thing for any sort of analytical purpose is missing the entire point of it. And likely, if it were to move to a point where people think it's an analytical tool, I think I would be more in favor of orbital nuking it, which is something we've talked about. So it is like an interesting one where like I want it to just be what it is, which is a random place where people upvote and downvote stuff, and I can just scan it and like think about why that is what it is. Any analysis on it is like very hideous. We're looking for correlation without causation. As someone who previously had to do research projects involving LDSs and stuff, at least partial squares, like you could create a lot of bad data that has no purpose, and I do not want that becoming like bad data. So yeah.
Yeah, for now it's like a fun little thing, and I would hope that people don't take it too seriously, but you know, it's something that we're aware of. We discussed before it got implemented. We're aware of in case we need to unimplement it. There are going to be quite a lot of slides to go, so we're going to talk about the watch list as well as some other stuff and upcoming events, but for now, because there are no points changes, this is the opportunity to ask any questions. We'll have a brief minute or so where anyone can ask anything until we get into the watch list. Give us so no watch list change? No, we're going to get into the watch list, Graham. So in terms of actual points changes, nothing has occurred, and if you have questions about that, now is the time to ask. I'm going to scroll back and make sure we haven't missed anything. I don't think I saw any questions.
Capers, your question will be answered in due process. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned, buddy. You're good. You're good.
In terms of the meta, So, I don't think anything's been surprising over the last period. I mean, all of the decks that have occupied the meta have been in about percentages that I would expect to see. There's a couple of people tinkering. I would say there are a couple more people tinkering than there were before. Like, there are more brews coming through at big events, but outside of that, nothing has dropped off the meta entirely. Nothing has taken over the meta entirely, so no surprises from my end.
Yeah, we did have low impact D points considered, but again, we chose to go with no points because we thought the value of no points versus small changes. We wanted to show that we were able to take a set off for once and not just meddle every set, especially because we've been a very, since the change, it's been a very active committee in the last, I guess, almost a year now, and so we wanted to cool the jets and go, hey, we can also be a committee that can just let things cook. What else is here?
When is Gamble being appointed? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Gamble being? Yeah, for the meta, for me, the thing that's probably most interesting, I was a little bit surprised, but like happy. Like 3 8-point decks finishing in the top 8 at Mana Clash 2 was pretty cool. Like I think 8-point decks are starting to like. I haven't looked at it like super deeply, but I think 8-point decks are starting to perform at like a pretty high level. I think the delta between them and standard decks, if you were to control for like new players just playing 8-point naturally, I think like the delta there is very small. So, but one of the things I talked about briefly in the channel was with the data that everyone's handling is I think there's a real issue with the data not involving player skill at all. So I think like if there was like a player elo we were tracking, I think to wrap us in the other questions, I think the Grixis data would not be concerning anymore because I think the Grixis data is largely being held up by a number of high quality players who are just going to put up fantastic results no matter what. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's like one of the interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, to answer Decido, Natch, and I'll get back to the gamble thing because I do have a response to that. For the most part, Grixis as a concept is always going to exist, and I think people need to get accustomed to that. This is an eternal power level format. Blue cards are really, really good in comparison to the other colors. And honestly, having a deck like Grixis be one of the best decks is fine because it's a fair deck. It doesn't lead to any particularly heinous gameplay experiences when you play against Grixis. You're both going to play some amount of your cards. Someone will get a bit ahead and then the game will be over. It's not going to be decided by something resolving on turn 1 that ends the game immediately, for example. So I'm personally happy with Blue Black X being a good deck. I think, a play pattern of discard spells plus threats is pretty healthy overall. But I don't think, if it were to become one exact 75 and that was the best deck, that would be more of a problem. But we are seeing so much diversity in a deck that has historically not had much.
Yeah, I mean, I think if an interactive mid-range deck is like one of the better decks to play in the format, that is a healthy format. I'd be much more concerned if like fast combo was like eating up massive like play share and winning at a higher clip. Like I think like mid-range decks inherent and again blue like Brainstorm is just a good card. Ponder is a good card. Like Preordain is a good card. Thoughtseize is a good card. Like these cards are just like very good. They do what they do. They give you like access to finding answers faster. You get permission. You get kill spells and card selection and everything else you would possibly want. But yeah, like I think like inherently like I think decks that have like fair play patterns are good and healthy to have in the meta. It allows combo decks to try to like fight them, and it allows aggro decks to try to go underneath them, and they're a good like bridge point for the format. So. But yeah, talking about the elo thing, I think the elo thing's difficult. It's interesting. Again, like as Jack pointed out earlier, like I think good players do pick good decks, but like one of the interesting things is like I do think Grixis is going to attract players that like naturally want to play it to have high sort of skill expression gameplay patterns and stuff like that. So I think like you could point the deck out of the format if you really desperately wanted to. It's like not impossible. I don't know to what end the purpose of that accomplishes. I don't think it's a healthier format. I don't want to ever turn into like Pioneer when the win rate on the play is like 64%. I don't want to turn into some of our worst moderns where it's 2 ships passing in the night. Like again, I do want decks that are choosing to interact to inherently like not be punished just because they happen to be like a blue color soup deck. Like I don't think that's a bad place for the format to be. I think it's a far worse format when people are like cheating out things on turn one in egregious ways that like there's no play pattern around it. So that's just how I view like what I think a healthy format looks like.
So I wanna talk about the gamble being depointed. Now, obviously, for the most part, that comment is hopefully not entirely, or rather, isn't. Gamble isn't just like the only card that we think may or may not need to be depointed just because it looks a bit silly. There are plenty of cards on the points list that some or all of us have identified are too many points on average and don't see any play. This particular update could have seen some depointings. It's possible that future updates will see those depointings. It's possible that they won't. For the most part, if we're depointing a card, it has to have a kind of purpose. And one of the reasons that we haven't depointed random cards that don't see play is because it probably isn't going to change anything. So we want to find a time and a place where we can make those changes appropriately, I guess is the easy way to phrase that.
I think we're ready to move on to like the bigger meat of what we're about to do.
Yeah, let's do it. So, the Watchlist. The Watchlist, as of TDM, was Mental Misstep from 0 to 1, Force of Will from 1 to 2. These two cards are staying on the Watchlist, but we would like to explicitly talk about them, and no other cards are entering the Watchlist. So it is just these two, and we want the player base to have a particularly keen eye on these cards moving forward. Do you want to start on Misstep, or do you want me to?
Yeah, look, Misstep we're probably, now that we've had a shift in the committee, and now that, I guess without like, some committee members' opinions changing, Misstep 0 to 1 remains firmly in our decision-making process. It is something that is strongly being considered. It is something that is leaning to that way. I think like my thoughts on it, the more I look at it, if Misstep just had force and negation text, I think it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think like if it had force and negation text where you could only cast it on your opponent's turn for the Phyrexian mana, like this card would be fine in the format. I think inevitably it leads to more non-games than games. Which again, like, whereas like Brainstorm, when people ask about Brainstorm leads to more games than non-games, for example. So like, I think like this card has its issues. It leads to some like really messed up play patterns. It is wildly ubiquitous at a point where like if you're not playing it, by God, you better have a really good reason. It is something we are strongly looking at. What do you want to say about it, Vi?
I want to talk about it holistically, and I do want to quickly address AD. Whether or not Misstep or Force of Will would have been pointed in this update or not was not a factor as part of the no points changes. Whether or not they get pointed will be based on their own merit. So, Mental Misstep is very likely needing a point. The fact that it shows up everywhere, it is very powerful, it is very easy to put into a deck, it is very good when you put it into a deck. It is easily the most important 0-point card out of effects that we've already decided that we can't remove from the format, like fetch lands, for example. Critically, though, if Misstep was to get pointed and every single deck needed to change, we need to be able to monitor what actually happens because of that change. And that is the reason that we have to be very careful with when or if we make this change. If we were to make the Misstep change, we need to know what happens because of it, so that when we make changes after that, which we are almost certainly going to have to do, we need to know why those cards are getting pointed or why those cards are getting depointed, and we need to know how much influence Misstep being at 1 versus being at 0 has on those cards. So, for the most part, people, think about this like, oh, I cut my 60th card, I put in a new card, right? And if everyone is doing that, everyone is removing the same card from the format, but everyone is putting in different cards into the format. And so the shake-up that occurs from that is not just everyone swaps Misstep into the next best thing, because all of those next best things are different. It also changes a lot of, like, there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen in the format, you know, by nature of it being, you know, an eternal format where lots of different archetypes can exist, and while you may hate what Misstep does in terms of actual gameplay experience, you can't ignore the concept that it is a safety valve against dying to 1-mana spells. Like, that is just functionally how the card works. It gives stack interaction to decks that don't have access to stack interaction. It has the ability to offset the play draw discrepancy, which occurs in eternal formats. While it may be too good at doing all of those things, and it may be too powerful as a card of its own merit, it does slow the game down by being in everyone's deck. Because Misstep can't kill you, it can only stop your opponent from killing you. Obviously, if it stops the Swords to Plowshares on your creature, that's going to kill them. It's still an answer, it's not a threat. So, removing that safety valve is 100% going to change the format. And the crux of it is, when we make this change, we need to know what to do after it, basically.
Yeah, like, I think, like, it is, like we talked about, I brought it up briefly earlier, like, granularity. One of the biggest problems with the Misstep change is, like, you know, potentially at that point, Ragavan ticks back up to being a 2-point card from a 1-point card. Like, potentially, like, the card, like, when I'm looking at the format going, if Misstep's out of the format, I think the card will see more on the rise, like, probably, like, more prismatic endings again, more, like, chances are this card's going to have to be replaced with 1-mana interaction. And if it's not, the format will move funnily. People will probably try other things, but, you know, there'll be issues for some decks where, like, maybe, like, a red deck doesn't have a cleaner answer to a Carpet of Flower, like, they want to play, like a Fast Spawn coming down or something. Or maybe, like, a different color deck, like Carpet of Flowers, without Misstep, you actually have to play the Spell Pierce. You're probably already playing it, but maybe you have to now. Like, maybe more main deck Spell Pierces. Maybe some Elemental Blasts will make their way into the main boards. That's, like, something I've considered is, like, maybe we'll see Red Elemental Blast or Power Blast in the main board at some clip, purely because, like, this will have to, almost certainly in my opinion, be replaced with some 1-mana answer, and then those 1-mana answers. Now, someone asked there, is it unplayable at one point? I actually think it's still good in, like, 8-point aggro decks specifically, probably. That's just, like, my opinion in the dark. I think some decks will still fit this in. I think it actually is more favorable to 8-point decks than anyone else. But, like, one of the issues with the Misstep pointing specifically is that it is going to have potentially far-ranging effects. I am, I guess, more cognizant of the fact that it could change the format more than some other people think, but I'm just, like, I guess, a little more look before you leap with it. But yeah, I think, like, I think Misstep being pointed is probably a good thing. There's just, like, a few points of a little bit of concern. It might end up being, I think the chances of it being the wrong call are greater than 0, but not super high. So it's like a really, like, hard change to make, or, like, the reason it's been a hard change to make is because it is a card that has been viewed as a safety valve for so long, and I think it's hard to, like, be accepting of pulling that up, and, like, if it does go wrong, we have to admit we were wrong, which is, like, not actually impossible. So this is, like, a more dangerous, like, pointing or depointing, in my opinion. Whereas if we, like, pull the trigger on other cards, moving a pointer down a point, we haven't, like, fucked the format entirely, potentially. Like, I don't know, I don't think this will, but, like, there's, like, the 1% chance it does kind of energy, which is why, like, we're always a little more hesitant with these things, I think. And why, like, this card's been talked about for 5 years, and it's been very, like, difficult to see anyone doing anything about it, is because, like, there is the opportunity this is the wrong call if we point it. And so it makes us a little bit hesitant. Just so you understand, like, you know, what we're thinking about it, so.
Yeah, this, you know, Mental Misstep would most likely be a positive change, but regardless, it's going to be a big change. And we just want to be careful with how and when we make that change. Critically, and I want to answer some of the questions here. So, Cadbury says, would this not have been a good time to make this change? Realistically, because we want to see the outcome of Misstep at 1, we can't have it just prior to a very empty season. Between now and the next points update is just going to be weeklies. There aren't any big events. There's going to be some monthlies and whatnot, but there's not going to be any interstate level events. It's just going to be weeklies, and it's going to be impossible for us to know exactly what is happening as a result of this change. So realistically, the best time to point Misstep will be as a lead-in to 2 or 3 big events. That way we can see those events, we can see what happened, because, on the one hand, yeah, you replace it with an answer, but each of the things that Misstep can answer require different answers. Answering a Reanimate can be done in a bunch of different ways, but most of the cards that answer Reanimate don't also answer Ragavan, don't also answer Carpet of Flowers, don't also answer Entomb. There's just so many different things that can happen that so many cards are going to be changing. And we want to be able to actually analyze those cards that get changed.
Look, I'm running Nationals, guys. I would love for us to get 50, 60 players to it, but I'm expecting it closer to 30 or 40, which is a fine number, but not specifically a massive event. And the other side of that, again, I love going out to Perth, love being out there, plan to smash some beers at the event again. I think, reasonably, one of the issues here is that, the Perth meta is probably, somewhat less established in other regions. I don't know if that data point is as reliable as an East Coast event where we see multiple cities come together into one spot to duke out with whatever meta exists. So that event, we'll look at the data from it like anything else. I suspect, it's just I don't know that it would have been the thing to help it. So yeah, like I said, happy to look. I love Nationals, love them doing it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shit talk it. Just saying, the data integrity from that event might not be quite what we were looking for as well.
So Dobby asks, it would be perfect to gauge how good the change is if we make it now instead of tainting the player experience of 2 major events. You can't have it both ways. If we think Misstep is going to be a positive change, we can't also think it's going to taint the experience of major events. We think this is going to be a good change for the format, so we want to know what actually happens to the format, right? If we make a change and we just have weeklies and we just have word of mouth and a bunch of chatter about it, we don't get to know whether Ragavan needs to go back to 2. We don't get to know if Reanimate should be at 2. And we have had plenty of major events that have had really bad play experiences due to points changes or points inaction. The Initiative Winter, for example, comes to mind. This, I think, I'm just going to disagree with chat. I think that Misstep, if we think it's going to be a positive change, I want that positive change to be echoed and amplified by massive events with lots of people, so we get to know what happens. I don't know. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I got 2 takes on the Dobby thing. Where the one is tainting the experience of 2 major events. One of those events is my own. If I am destroying my own $50 Win a Black Lotus event, I guess I'm the loser of that. So let me face the consequences of my poor actions, I suppose. I think there've been formats, the Initiative format's the format I come up with, which was heinous. People are rolling dice with Comet and winning games on the spot, and just disgusting play patterns. And they still had decent numbers. They're not remembered super fondly, but there's that. The other thing to note for Vance is we actually have an update before the what's it called? There's actually an update before the Black Lotus event, in November. So there's actually an update that we could potentially push. Literally 2 weeks before the Black Lotus or something. It's just insane amounts. A week before the Lotus event. So specifically with Mental Misstep, you have the Spider-Man update, Edge of Eternity, then Spider-Man, then Avatar. There's actually 3 updates happening. Potentially one of them could happen before or after the Black Lotus event, which is kind of obscene. So we have a lot of levers to pull here. A lot of levers to pull, which is Something that I think people don't really quite understand. Like, I know I behind the scenes have been explaining to people all these levers to pull and like where we have them, and trying to like help them understand like what a projected out event schedule looks like and where we can like make this all fit in. So yeah, it is like, it is crazy that like, even though you are right to be concerned about, we literally like after Edge of Eternity, if we were to do the trigger and we don't like what we see, we literally just pull the lever again in 6-7 weeks if we want, 8 weeks. Like, it's crazy. Like, that is Magic 2025, guys. So it is fucking wild. So the problem is, like I said, this is a massive change. It will take some evolution of the format. Again, I think Chris brought up like non-blue decks. I somewhat agree and disagree. Obviously, Mental Misstep gives tempo and permission to non-blue decks, but again, like I think you know, to me, the card that most mimics like Misstep is like, yeah, like we have Prismatic Ending, which is like a very clean card that like probably is the best comparison to Misstep, because it like cleanly answers no matter what one drop came down. Like you can exile Sorcery Speed. And potentially you can't stop an Ancestral, but like it's the closest thing. It's like to me at least, that's where I'm at right now. Like, it doesn't stop Reanimate either. Like, there's a few problems, but it's close-ish. Like, look, it's not great, but again, like Misstep is still, you know, a card that we think leads to a lot of bad play patterns. You know, goddamn, my phone's going off.
Oh, that's your phone. Okay. Yeah, I just like I can't stress how much people have or view Misstep with their own lens and will blank out all the other versions of Misstep that exist. So if you view Misstep as a way that counters your mana dork, then a Bolt is going to do the same thing. If you view Misstep as a way to counter your Swords to Plowshares, Bolt is not going to do the same thing. If you view Misstep as a way to counter your Reanimate, then Bolt is going to be very different. Like, it answers all the different things at a rate that is good enough that everyone plays it, which means when we remove that, everyone is going to have to adjust. A bunch of things are just going to win the game that, you know, can be jammed safely now that Misstep doesn't exist. You know, obviously having a turn 1 Ragavan or a turn 1 Death Rat Shaman is very good, but it's not as scary as a turn 1 Entomb or a Darkrit or a Fast Bond or a Crop Rotation. And the list of 1.1 mana cards, the list of pointed 1 mana cards, things like Sol Ring, for example, the list of cards that are almost worth a point that cost 1 mana is ridiculous. It's, you know, 400 cards at this point that Misstep answers, and some of those cards are going to get a lot more equity than others. You know, if people decide to play Lightning Bolt instead of Misstep, or, you know, the next best 1 mana removal spell, then all of the creatures at 1 mana will get worse, and all of the non-creatures at 1 mana will get better. If people decide to play Spell Pierce, all of the creatures get better, and all of the spells get worse. If people decide to play Priz Ending, all of the permanents get worse, and all of the non-permanents get better. Like, there's so many things that can happen, and while I assume that most of the change will be positive, I also really, really want to know what those changes are. Like, I really need to know what actually happens, and we can't do that if it's just weekly events that happen. You know, if we were to point Misstep now, we would be, you know, 7 weeks until the next points update. It would be a bunch of weeklies. We would essentially just be adding on 7 weeks of Misstep being at 1, but we still won't actually know what's going on. So it'll be the same as if it gets pointed later, but we'll have 1 fewer lever to pull. If that makes sense.
I think the other thing about it too is that, like, again, like, there's a lack of data on our end that we potentially need, but like, there's a lot of points changes that people are asking. Crop Rot to 0, Ancestral's too high. Like, this
Gamble.
card, like, solves a bunch of those problems. There's a bunch of pointings that are kind of built in around that potentially are fine if this card is 1, and there's a bunch of cards that are maybe not fine if this card is 1. And so, like, this card does pivot on an axis where there's a bunch of 1-point cards that, like, how they interact with this card is important. It's like, again, Crop Rot 1 to 0. We discussed it at some points for sure. And obviously, Crop Rod at 1 is super fine in a world where Missteps at 1. Like, super, like we're back to, like, where that card should be. Instead of, like, so, like, we kind of need to, like, probably, as we've talked about this, establish whether Misstep is a 0 or 1 point card to understand where the rest of the format needs to sit. Because while it remains in some form of limbo, it's kind of hard because the rest of the format has some pivot point on this card's pointing. Because this card is that level of card that has that level of impact on the format. And then, so if it does, and we've agreed that it has a level of impact, then the question is, does this card lead to a better state of play or a worse state of play? And it appears mostly these days that the growing number of people who are in agreement that this card leads to a worse play patterns and worse level of play is a growing majority. And not to say that, like, the tyranny of the masses rule this format, but obviously, like, those opinions, as they become more popular, probably, essentially we're exposed to it more, and we have to make a decision if we agree or disagree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were to sit down and look at every single card in Magic and discuss adding 1 point to any of them, adding a point to Misstep might make 20 to 30 changes to the format. It's probably not going to be that many, but I'm eyeballing that it's going to make 10 changes to the format. Like, the play-draw discrepancy is going to get worse, and all of the 1-mana threats that win the game by themselves are going to get better. All of the 1-mana spells just become free rolls against all the non-blue decks. There's a lot of, like, really scary things that, this helps against. But also, when you're just playing a normal fair game of Magic, Misstep tends to be very, very, very good. I don't know. It's a really, really weird and awful card. I think that most of the previous committees have been similarly paralyzed by whether or not to pull this trigger, when and how to pull this trigger. We're at a point now where we're getting closer. We just need to have... I don't know. We just need to know when it... We need to know that it feels right to pull the trigger, honestly. And I know I'm not personally there. I didn't want to do it this update.
We also need an ER ready to what's it called? Like, put the Band-Aid on the bullet wound if it's wrong. Like, yeah. I think, like, again, part of the reason we wanted to throw it out there is this talking point, this big talking point, is to understand that this is probably going to be a more aggressive committee decision that, like, we could just backtrack on immediately. This would be, like, the biggest backtrack we could possibly see. It's easy. It could happen. Yeah. Not saying it will happen, but it certainly could happen. So, yeah. Anyway, I think it's a good... We've had a long talk about Misstep. Let's move on to Force of Will. Yeah.
This one's a lot simpler. The changes that were made in TDM were generally positive. Force of Will was watchlisted in case those changes were insufficient. Force of Will was watchlisted in case blue was still incredibly dominant. At the moment, it seems fine. The metagame seems fine. All the decks that exist in the format are allowed to exist in the format. We're going to keep an eye on it because the card is incredibly powerful. Like, it's easily one of the top 3 1-point cards you can spend a point on, even regarding its own internal safety valve of being bad against some amount of decks, for example. Yeah. From my seat, not much to talk about this unless you want to add anything.
No, I think this is like a healthier safety valve because it doesn't just let you spend 2 life to get tempo. You lose card advantage. Like, I don't know. I think it's like a healthier safety valve, personally. But yeah, like, that's not much to say.
So yeah, Watchlist, Misstep, and Force of Will remain. We talked a lot about Misstep, and keeping it on the watch list was to generate this discussion. Please continue to have these discussions in the public points discussion channel. But realistically, I think we can bench it for tonight. This one's all you, Pat. This is the...
are we at my bugaboo?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is me. This is me, guys. I'll fucking wear this. I hate that we call this the fucking watch list. I don't mind the concept of letting people know, like, what we've been talking about, what we're doing. I this whole concept that like this is the end all be all of what we're discussing. This is the only place things that could or don't get pointed could go to. Is just nonsensical to me. Language, you're in the wrong chat if you're expecting that. Sorry, no offense. But like it is just, this is certainly not the wording I want. I want this to be called something like, I don't know, a public discussion pointing forum. I don't know what language I is. If any of you do marketing for a living or are really good at sort of doing better, I don't know, a better way to describe what this thing is, that's cool. I just don't like the term watch list and like what it infers to players that the purpose of this is. We like specifically have kept Force of Will and Mental Misstep on this watch list. And like again, the purpose of that is to spur conversation, to identify where the committee is going in terms of like their future point. But like kind of like, how would I put it? Kind of like the Fed is out there, or like I see the RBA here. They're out there offering like positions of what they do. I by no means want to be locked into this being like this requiring us to make or not make a decision. Like focus cards isn't bad, I like that, but I really dislike it. I think it's like people have weaponized the watch list against us, and I don't think we're using it in the way people assume. So I think it's a communication issue. So I would like a better way for us to formulate what this thing is, because I think people's perception of what it is not what we are using it for, and so that's been the problem. And so yeah, that's just something I have become the vocal angry man ranting at the sky about in recent months. As again, like it's just something to show like again where we've been thinking, what we're thinking about, what we want you to think about, what we want feedback on. It's not meant to, points and depointings will happen that did not make it by all means, and will continue to do so. So we are not extensively giving lists of everything that we are thinking about or working on at all times, nor do we like intend to do it. So again, PM me, put it somewhere in the Discord. Maybe someone can make a channel. I'd like to rebrand it to what it is, which is again like maybe focal card, like this focus card. This sounds good. Discussions list, something like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I'll be honest, and to clarify, I am also in favor of changing this. Pat is just louder than me. If anyone in the community works in advertising or PR, please figure this out for us, because none of us have worked in that sector and we can't settle on anything. Every time we talk about it, we're all like, yeah, we need to change it, but also none of us can figure out how to, so it's just going to stay the watch list. And that's infuriating. I assume Pat is also upset that it hasn't changed yet, but we're working on it, theoretically.
We need better messaging, okay? Like, better messaging. Like, that's what we need. But yeah, so I think we're going to rebrand this thing at some point in the near future. Yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, just like this is just one of those little things that we have a not heavy points update that we can talk about this time. So yeah.
Upcoming events, real quick. So the big events that are going to be occurring, October 24th is a Candelabra at RC10. November 14th to 16th. This is all you.
Okay, yeah, I'm here to shill my own event, it appears. It is the event to end all events. If you haven't seen me post it in every place humanly possible, basically this is a $50 Win a Black Lotus 7-point event. Some things that haven't been announced yet, I guess I'm happy to announce about it. Like, they'll be more official, but if you get to watch this, you get early information. It will have a Day 2 cut, so we're going to do a Day 2 cut finally. There's going to be more rounds. Like, we're not basing rounds based on players. I intend to basically run it as an 8-round with a Day 2 cut of 5-3, and then 4 rounds plus top 8 on Day 2. There will be a run-it-back event on Day 2. More details and all that, but we're trying something a bit different. I think like this is something I've wanted to do for a while. It's been on the back burner for a while. Originally, the plan was to do it like next year or something. I wanted to have my, a lot of my personal things in my life in a way to do it. They are not there, and I've just decided, stuff it. Like, let's just push this thing forward and do it the way we do. As people said, the Day 2 idea is like I want people to have the opportunity to like, basically like not be dead because I get a first round loss. Like one of the things I'm very cognizant of. The RCs in Europe and other regions run with like more rounds. I think the way they run here is awful. I think like having to like X1 to like make a top 8, like Magic has a high level of frequency distribution problems when you play. I think letting people have more rounds so that they can put in the practice and like one bad round just doesn't decide their day is super important. So there's gonna be a lot of other stuff around the event. It's like a 400 to 500 person venue. I spent a ton of money on it. Like it's a 4x upgrade on cost from like what Coburg Town Hall costs for Mana Clash. But I'm super excited about it. Yeah, there'll be no team event at this one because the nature of day 2ing means that like you can't really have a team event because then suddenly one of your teammates is qualified, you're not. So this will have no team events, but there's a bunch of other things coming up around it, like a bunch of exciting things. We're intending to do an invitational. We're intending to run some other things. Like there's a lot of exciting stuff around it that will be drip feeding information about. But the important thing is book it in. The main event is $50 win a Black Lotus in Hurstville, Sydney, New South Wales. Like come be there, and yeah, like it should be a great time.
I want to highlight this last point as well. I've certainly noticed that a lot of LGSs are picking up in frequency. And if you have been a little bit detached from 7 Point, you might not have noticed this. In the 7 Point Highlander server, there is a channel called Event-Announcements, and all of the LGSs that are starting bi-weeklies and monthlies have been using that channel. So if you play in an area and you can't access the LGSs based on the timing, that they run events, some of the other stores in your area might. So it's just something to keep in mind. We want people to play as much Magic as they would like to. And it appears that the LGSs around the country are putting in the legwork, so I wanted to shout out to them.
Yeah, like I said, I think, the stuff going on around the country has been really, really good. I'm very excited to see that, and could be a good time to update the events calendar if we click on the website. Maybe, there's a lot of difficulty in that. It's like kind of trickier than you think it is, but kind of trickier than you think it is, but it's like not a bad idea. And July 27th is the next points update, which is again wild. Like again, like we reiterated earlier, look forward to more no points updates because the churn level. We are cognizant of the churn level. I'm cognizant of the churn level as an old legacy grinder on Moto that like I am not wildly interested in trying to turn this format too hard. So I think it should naturally evolve on its own. I think like when War of the Spark came out, we started getting all these cards being printed and going right into what's it called. It was not ideal. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say about having 7-ish points updates or 6-ish points updates in a year. Realistically, we would much rather have the ability to make small adjustments more frequently than to announce a longer schedule of 4 updates in the year and pre-announce that. It's much easier for us to have 6 updates in a year, and some of them will be very low impact or no changes, for example. It's just something that we understand from a player perspective that having to vaguely keep up with the format every 2 months is pretty exhausting, and I'll be honest, the 5 of us are far more exhausted than any of you, Pat especially, but, it's one of those things where this is the hand we've been dealt, this is the hand that we are operating with. At Edge of Eternities, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a big update, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a relatively small one, and it might be no changes, just pencil it in, that's when the next time will be here in front of you. June 21st, POG Monthly. Yeah, POG has been running monthly in the Highlander Open Series. Those are good events, so if you're based in Melbourne, check out those. I think someone mentioned Brisbane, right? Brisbane has a main event in August 9th. That's cool. Is the reporting on 7pointhighlander.com fixed yet for data? The reporting? Do you know anything about this?
I do not. Flick one of us a message outside of it. Madden 2026 side event? Aw. Look, I like the idea someone had to have like a gym equipment there, a boxing ring. I've done it. Yeah, look, yeah, Nationals is July 12th too. Yeah, but that, everyone in WA knows. Like, you guys don't have enough else going on out there. I'm looking forward to coming out though. Like I said, I'll be out there later for Peasant Pioneer too, per usual. So I'll see y'all twice this year.
Submit points and position, but that would have to be an Isaac question. Okay. Yeah, that's probably like a relic of the website. There are a lot of parts of the website that need work. And I'll be honest, I am very regularly working on that stuff, but it is a lot of work, and I'm one person. So bear with me, but yeah, I'll get to that, I guess. In terms of like a weekly event calendar, it has its own issues. Do we use, do LGSs ping us, or do we have to keep track of everything? It's just kind of exhausting. Pat, are you flying me down to Perth to commentate your event?
Well, there's no commentation this year. The goal is to have commentation out in Perth next year. That's the goal. That's the goal. I think we're considering having it for Peasant Pioneer instead. You've been out for Peasant Pioneer before. It's a good time.
Yeah,
we keep track of how many beers people drink as well, so it's a bit looser. For those of you who don't know, Perth has a rule: you can get a $50 one-day beer license in a venue out there. So like the store we run it in, all they need is like someone who can responsibly serve, and for $50 you can serve beer for like a 4 to 5 hour window, and it is wild. And I wish States Out East were as based as Perth is, but it's fantastic. Like I love it. It's a good time. I'll get on top of a chair and basically do a scooey in front of everyone. It's pretty wild. Yeah. I love it. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was over there. That event was gas. I haven't had that much fun in a while. Alright, well, we're ready to wrap up from our end. If anyone in chat has any questions that haven't been answered, please let us know. But otherwise, we'll leave it open for a little bit, and then if you have any questions that we've missed, or that you would like answered, but you aren't able to ask now, feel free to, shoot any of us a message. I don't think I've missed any questions recently, though.
You've done a good job. You've been scouting that chat proper, like a proper streamer.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it for a living.
If I effort post on public points and get flamed by at least 3 people, we can get reanimated too. You're definitely gonna get flamed by at least 3 people, though. So that's just not. I mean, I already know that's gonna happen. So it has to be more than that, right?
I mean, okay. This is a PSA, all right, and this is for everyone in chat who is a frequent flyer of the Public's Points Discord discussion channel on the server. When you're presenting your statement or your question on the format, don't go into it expecting significant opposition. Don't go into it feeling like you need to defend your position against a host of people, because some of the time you'll be right and there'll be plenty of people who agree with you, but those people aren't going to be saying as much because they agree with you. So on the one hand, most people will feel like posting any kind of opinion in that channel is just an excuse to get roasted and ripped into by other people. But just try and be cognizant that there will be people who agree with you. They just probably won't say anything unless they're specifically disagreeing with a counterpoint that has occurred in that discussion. The idea of the channel is for it to be a discussion. It is not meant to be a place for you to put up your sign, stand in front of it, stand behind it, and just wait and then start fighting people. That's just not the idea. So if you have a question and you are asking it in earnest, be prepared for people to disagree with you, but don't go in expecting it, because it's just going to raise the hostility levels. And I really don't like how aggressive that channel has become. I really don't like how toxic people get. This is, at the end of the day, a children's card game. This is a hobby that you are all sharing. And even though all of you are different people, you have at least one thing in common that you care about. Just stop caring about it so much that you start being a dick, because it's not that serious. This is a children's card game with pieces of cardboard that you have in your backpack. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Look, I think Cadbury Clinker has it right. Basically, Public Point Discord has turned into Charlie Kirk videos. Like, I'm on board with this comparison. This is the analogy I'm for. Look, this boxing idea is not the worst. Like, good old shout out to Ethan Bird and Quality Lines. They want to supposedly my bus stop boys might get challenged to a gym off at the Black Lotus event. So we'll see what that looks like. I don't even know. But yeah, like I said, I agree with Voltie here. The Public Points Discord is sometimes a place I go to eat popcorn and to watch people like just like knife fight on the internet behind their keyboards. But I would prefer the channel to not devolve into a B thread back in the day. But look, it exists as a space to contain it. So I mean, if you're gonna do it, I guess that's the place to do it. But it would be lovely if you all played nice. Signed a mod.
Look, if you write an essay for that channel, before you hit post, just pause and ask yourself, would my mother be upset reading that I was writing this? That is like the easiest way for you to filter into being a rational person providing well-reasoned arguments with some amount of information. It's not that hard. That's how I teach people to do it. You know, I've had to reform people to stop using what I like to call gamer words, and I just, I switched my picture in the server to a different picture of someone's mum every now and then. It's a very easy way to do it. It drills it into you. Anyway, let's move on. There are some other questions here. Dash asks, what effect does the new Points Vibes channel have on points discussion? Almost zero. Don't expect it to do anything, and we did discuss this earlier, but you probably missed it. It is a way for us to gauge general sentiment, but there are quite a lot of issues with having a channel like that we take into consideration. So don't expect it to actually make any changes. And, every now and then one of us will maybe talk about a card that is from that channel, but it's not going to be because of that channel. That's just maybe going to be a factor in it. Harry asks, and this is a fun question, in your ideal world, what can the community do to better support the committee? Thoughts?
That's a good question. What could we do to help? I don't know. Like, the most helpful thing that happens to me, honestly, this is pretty simple. People come up to me at events. Like, you'll notice, like, when I was at Mana Clash 2, I'm out amongst the people most of the time. I'm wandering around. I'm talking shit, swearing, carrying on, doing what I do. But, like, people come up to me and just, like, I don't know, have, like, a meaningful, like, just, like, supremely, what's the word I want to look for? I don't know, like, an honest chat about, like, hey, I like the things you're doing, this, that. Like, I don't know, just, like, give me some good vibes, and that'll carry me a long way. On the alternative, tell me you think everything I'm doing wrong, and I'm, like, lesser of a person, and that'll motivate me every morning, too. Like, both sides of the coin are pretty solid. So, I'd say either send the good vibes or make me feel like I'm doing nothing worthwhile, so I'll prove you wrong. For me, that's my personal, like, gradient with which I exist in my life, so...
Yeah, I would say all 5 of us are open to constructive criticism. Emphasis on the first part of that phrase. In general, some of us will not be as receptive to just positive reinforcement. Like if you just tell someone that they're doing a really good job, maybe that's not going to sit right with them because of various levels of trauma that she has experienced in her upbringing. But for the most part, constructive criticism is welcome by all 5 of us. And if you have a particular committee member that you like talking to, maybe just ask them the different ways that you can help. So, for example, if you live in Wollongong and Mouse is your closest committee member, just have a chat with him one day, maybe buy him a beer after an event, and just ask, hey, how's it going? Are you okay? Because let me tell you, this is not a fun job. Like, that is just the reality of it. It is very much a necessary, it is not a necessary evil, but it is something that I feel obligated to put more effort into than I think is worth sometimes. And I do it for the love of the game, and I 100% know Pat is with me on that. But
look, I don't know. I wrote some long posts recently about like why I do events and what I do. Like, I don't know. Like for me, a lot of it's like giving back and doing what's important to me. And so at the end of the day, like I wanted to be on the committee because I was like an angel investor for the format at the time, and I wanted more purview into what was going on and to be able to do bigger, better things. And so I said, let's do it, let's pitch it. So that's just kind of like, where I'm at. But like, I think it's like, I don't know. I probably don't share Voltie sentiment. I like bite off more than I could chew a fair bit and enjoy it. I enjoy like putting myself into the ground every day I work. So I think this job does have some effort, some issues, and responsibilities. But I think again, people have to do it. I think it's a good thing, and like that's why I think like people put their few years in when they are on the committee and do their thing, and then people inevitably leave once they've like been the change they want to see and pass the torch on to someone else. Like I think I've talked about there's a lot of things. I have goals and aspirations of what I'm trying to do in my time on the committee, and then once I've accomplished them, like I intend to hand the torch off to the next person to give them a chance to do what they want to do. So that's my pitch. That's what I believe. So.
And I think an important thing, and this applies to most aspects of life, try not to forget that the five of us are people, and we all theoretically enjoy the same children's card game hobby that you do. It's very easy to shout at the nebulous committee in the distance, and when you do that, it's heard by all five of us. But if you're only speaking in a capacity where one of us can hear you, and you address the committee, it feels a little personal. I don't know if you have the same experience, but I know I feel it sometimes. And we're trying. We're trying our hardest. This is not something that has an instruction manual. This is not something where, we have data to look at. I don't get to... Like, if, I've worked managerial roles at work before. It is way easier to know if you're doing well. Here, we are vibing. We are figuring it out as we go. And
look, yeah. I think like I don't know. I know that not everything I'm gonna do, how would I put it, is gonna be everyone's favorite. I've long ago had to accept that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I carry on. I swear I'm opinionated. I'm American. Like that's something. Oh, as Harry has says, look, maybe like I don't know. Like I have ideas and concepts of Watchlist, like obviously like we're not an official format, and I think it's like probably a good thing we're not an official format. So I don't know, I don't know what that looks like, but like one of my goals is like with this Black Lotus event is to try to like get some eyeballs from America, Watchlist, to go what on earth is going on down there, to potentially like gain the opportunities to like do some other things. But that's a hard space. Like that's a whole different conversation around like the ability of regions to support multiple TOs and stuff like that. But ask me in person, I can have a good chat with you about that for a while.
Alright, I reckon we're going to wrap it up and answer one last question, which is a bit of a fun one from Cole here. Can you each give your hottest take on a points change you do? I'm going to let you go first, because mine is definitely hotter than yours.
A points change I would do... I would potentially ban all cards that involve dice rolling, given like what competitive Magic is. I don't like outcomes of matches being decided by like literally coin flipping or die rolling. I think it's like pretty heinous. That's like not even a point. I would point them all to 8 points, I guess, or 10 points. They wouldn't be playable. But like I really don't like cards like Comet in the format, because I just don't think like rolling dice to decide dying or living is good. One of my friends actually lost his winning into day 2 at Pro Tour Amsterdam because his opponent won a invert polarity coin flip, and he lost the game.
Yeah.
Like it came down to an invert polarity coin flip.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that to me is not what high level Magic should be about. So I really don't like those cards. So there you go.
Yeah, contained randomness in a card game like Hearthstone is very different to true randomness that we experience. You know, if Mana Crypt was templated or errated to just do 2 damage every upkeep, it would be simpler, and we wouldn't live in this hellscape. Raj says ban all cards from multiplayer/EDH products. That's honestly quite fair as well. That is not a sentiment that is uncommon among high-level players of the format and committee members. Harry is somewhat right in saying that my fetches would be at 1, but I would just ban them if I could. I literally have a 40-minute video about why I think fetch lands are the worst thing that have ever happened, so I would probably put every fetch land to 10 points, except exactly Windswept Heath, which you can have at 7. I think that's fair. That's probably about where it's right for the granularity out of the 10. Prismatic Vista I'll give you for like 5.
Oh yeah, I guess to get back to it, yeah, like I agree, like not ripping the right card, like something like that. I think like actually at the point where we're rolling dice, like we're just like that is, yeah, like the point where we actually have to roll dice and like can keep re-rolling and weird things happen. Like I think like some of the D&D cards involving rolling dice, like obviously they're not the same power level, but like there's one die roll, it affects something. Like some of those are kind of heinous too, but like keep in mind you can't decide a competitive match through like what's it called, through a random, right? We can't roll dice to decide who wins a match, and yet they've built it into the game as an actual mechanic that can win matches. Like common, if you roll the right way, can just like win the match, and that to me is like sort of at odds with the Watchlist mission statement. So,
yeah. Look, many things. Controlled randomness is in general fine. Dark Confidant, for example, is theoretically a coin flip, but it is controlled randomness and is a relatively fine card to exist. It really depends on the range of outcomes that can occur, and that's something that people tend to forget when it comes to randomness. Like, you know, the fact that some of the cards in the game have high roll potentials that just win the game is absurd. Like, it's definitely not a thing that should exist. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. If you have any questions that we've missed, or if you have any questions that you want to ask, please join the 7 Point server. This video is going to be uploaded to the 7 Point YouTube channel shortly-ish. But otherwise, that's going to be it from us. Bye, everyone.
Adios.
See you in July.